So it looks like this is actually war now, and this is definitely something that America itself is going to get dragged into as the Israel-Iran conflict is continuing on. They're both firing rockets at one another. I don't know how much damage has been done. It seems that both sides have taken some heat from this. The fog of war is very thick and very difficult to pierce, and so I'll let other people who have got more time than I do to dedicate to this do that. But it seems that, like I said, there has been there is damage being done. And what's interesting is that several important people left in the Iranian regime seem to be fleeing. You've got the president who apparently has left, and 3 Iranian military planes have also left to land in Oman, which is apparently supposed to be mediating between them. As Nick here points out, a deal may be back on the table. Well, not according to Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is apparently in no way interested in a deal, as you can see. As you can see, he says, we're long beyond a ceasefire. Let's have a listen.
He said I was going back home to make a ceasefire. Not a ceasefire. We're long beyond ceasefire. And I said, why do you say that? Why would you say ceasefire? It's a bad term to use. Because a ceasefire means like everything's going swimmingly, we'll take a little time off. It's not. We're not looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for a total, complete victory. Again, you know what the victory is. No nuclear weapon.
Mr. President.
So I thought it was a very badly worded statement by him, and obviously.
Okay, so complete victory, and you may remember that he said the other day, unconditional surrender. And so the question is, what are you actually trying to achieve here, Mr. President? Because, say, well, no nuclear weapon. Well, if Iran we don't have any nukes, then this is the end of the line, right? Then the war is over. Iran don't seem to have any nukes, and if they do, they haven't used them. So what now? And the thing is, okay, maybe Trump is like, yeah, well, we want no nukes. But I'm thinking that Netanyahu wants regime change in Iran. And it's not that he's been shy about saying this, ever, for the last couple of decades. But anyway, the question is, I suppose, are China and Russia going to get involved? And China doesn't seem to think that it wants to. From what I can tell, China just seems to want de-escalation, because China seems to be interested in building its Belt and Road Initiative and building its network of economic dependencies around the world in order to slowly but surely maneuver itself back into a position of prominence, which honestly is a sensible and clever long-term strategy. Russia seems to have the desire for peace, to want to mediate peace, but otherwise it seems that Trump has told Putin to stuff it. Frankly, though, if Russia can't even handle Ukraine, how much use are they going to be to Iran? It's not like Russia isn't pretty committed already. There's a lot going on for Russia. So I can't imagine how much help they're really going to be to the Iranians. So it seems that Iran is on its own, and it seems that Trump is getting fully involved. And so the question is, okay, well, where does the American spirit lie on this? Do Americans agree with it? And this interview between Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson was very interesting because it shows which one of them has been given millions of dollars by AIPAC, right? It's not Tucker Carlson. And Tucker doesn't want this because he supported the Iraq invasion. And of course, somewhere north of 500,000 children died, and God knows how many people died in that. And the catastrophe that was ISIS was born out of the destabilization of the region. And so the last sort of 25 years in the Middle East has been quite an eye-opening experience, and Tucker Carlson lived through all of it and supported it on the premises that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, he was going to use them any time, it was a direct threat to America, something had to be done. The same narrative is being used with Iran, and it's being used by Ted Cruz. And what Tucker Carlson has done in this clip, we'll play it in a second, is show just how cavalier these people are. And it was the cavalier nature. I mean, I remember the invasion of Iraq, and I remember how cavalier the Americans seemed at the time. And in later years, you had lots of thought done as to why things went badly. And one of the takeaways was, well, the Americans just didn't really understand the region. They didn't really understand the people. They didn't really understand the consequences of doing the things that they did. Right? Saddam Hussein, the evil that he was also holding the lid on a lot of other evil that would come out. And at least with someone like Saddam Hussein, because he is like an individual power center, you can work with him, whether that's, for good or for ill. But Ted Cruz in this came across even less informed than the Americans did during the invasion of Iraq. And that's not good. Let's watch this.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and
What percent?
predominantly Shia. Okay,
It's not
okay.
even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
Okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a...
Okay, so he admits that he's not an expert on Iran, and he doesn't seem to know anything about the country. So, demanding regime change in a place that you really don't know much about, well, America has been down this road before, and it didn't actually end brilliantly. So, I think that what's happening in the Trump administration is that you have Netanyahu and the sort of Israel First caucus, who have realized that Iran is profoundly weak at the moment. It's not that the Ayatollahs and the mullahs have been popular for years at home anyway. About a third of Iran is actually Muslim, and about a third is also non-religious, and then a third is split between various other minority denominations, Sunni being one of them, they're majority Shia. And so it's quite a fragile regime. And Netanyahu, I think, sees this as his time. This is I don't think Iran's ever been weaker, and they can knock them off now. There is the descendant of the previous king in exile at the moment who could go back and be a Western puppet, basically, Western ally, to restore the monarchy of Iran. So everything is kind of lining up. And Netanyahu the other day put out a statement to the Iranians saying, look, now is the time to rise up. And so I think that essentially a lot of people are smelling blood in the water. But Tucker Carlson represents that sort of branch of MAGA that is not interventionist, does not want to be knocking off foreign governments and being burdened with the consequences of that. And there's good reason for that. They've been down this road. They know what happens. They've seen it in Libya. They've seen it in Syria. They've seen it in various other places. It's like, right, okay, these things tend not to end well, actually. And Iran is the largest country in the region that they will have done it to. I mean, Libya's got like 5 million people. Iran's got 90 million people. Like, this is a much bigger issue. And so Ted Cruz has been kind of coping and seething on Twitter over this, which, I mean, this meme doesn't make any sense. Tucker is, in fact, the other way around, saying, why do we want to blow up Iran? Iran not being the Death Star in this, really, because the American empire is not the rebels in this. But anyway, the point is Ted Cruz is coping over this, and Eudaimonia just strips it down. It's nonsense. Stop this nonsense, right? This isn't actually something to be frivolous over. What you're talking about is millions of people's lives and the geopolitical stability of the region and the massive amounts of uncertainty that will come from this. And being like, oh yeah, I don't really know anything about Iran. Yeah, well, the Persians aren't even the majority ethnic group of Iran. They're the largest ethnic group, but they're only 48%. And so you can see all of these other areas that have got millions of non-Persian ethnicity people in, they will have a lot to say, right? If you knock out the government of Iran, a lot of things then start happening, and it all becomes very, very unpredictable, and lots of bad things probably happen very quickly. So who knows what happens with that? So Ted Cruz being totally cavalier about this and saying, I don't need to know. I've been paid by AIPAC. Why do I need to know? I just know this is what they want, and therefore let's do this. And Donald Trump, again, seems to be up for this because he thinks this is going to somehow stop them getting a nuclear bomb. He wants an unconditional surrender, but Netanyahu definitely wants regime change. And so you've got John Kennedy here. He's like, look, basically the question on the table is America going to be the world's policeman? And again, it's a question that America has had to answer before. And the problem is, America is actually not very good at running its world empire. This is the main issue with America, is it tries to pretend that it doesn't have an empire, and that in fact it wants democracies and allies. But how did that work out in Afghanistan? How did that work out in Iraq, in fact? These things, the Americans don't really understand the non-democratic world. And so the question is America going to be the world's policeman? Well, if you're not, who is? Well, as Kennedy points out, it's China, Russia, or Iran, or whoever else. There aren't many good options on the table, frankly. And so what do you choose? Who do you go with? What are you going to do? But this will require a substantive commitment to actually getting the job done. And even then, you better have an alternative. Now, luckily, like I said, in the case of Iran, an alternative actually seems to be presenting itself in the exiled king. So at least that's a better choice than what they had in Iraq, which is, let's recruit some locals, won't we? And just, put one of them in charge. In Afghanistan, let's have some locals there. At least there will be something that actually has the hint of legitimacy about it when it comes to Iran. But anyway, like I said, like this, I personally am not for intervention in Iran. I actually side with the Tucker Carlson version of MAGA on this, where it's like, look, whatever. But I'm not unsympathetic to okay, but someone has to be the person who calls the shots at the end of the day. So, okay, fine. If you're going to do that, you really need a higher standard of imperialist than Ted Cruz. Someone who actually seems credible and seems to know what they're talking about and has a plan. Because wars begin when you will, but they do not end when you please, as Machiavelli pointed out 500 years ago. And that is as true today as it was then. Things could go very badly very quickly, and this could end up being a very dark stain on the Trump administration if they don't handle this right. And it's not like we don't have a really good precedent to draw upon there.